So, the Song of Achilles is a retelling of the end of the Trojan War, the Iliad by Homer, and it basically asks the question of what would happen if the supposed relationship between Patroclus and Achilles was explicitly romantic. And the answer to that question is my heart crushed in the palm of Madeline Miller. This book is wonderful and wonderfully heartbreaking as well. It's such a unique perspective on the Iliad and the idea of Patroclus and Achilles being explored in further detail through this romantic pairing is just such a good idea, and it is done exceptionally well here, so it is. So Madeline tells the story of this strictly through the point of view of Patroclus, who is Achilles' companion in the Iliad, and it's widely believed or theorized by scholars that the pairing between the two of them is romantically coded. So basically it's anything except explicitly romantic feelings being expressed in the Iliad, and Madeline has just sort of ran with that, developed it, and created this new story around the original pairing. And I have to say, Madeline is an excellent writer, so she is. This book is very, very gripping from the beginning to the very end, and she paces it in such a way that you're never really bored. You're always invested in these characters, and you become attached to them very, very quickly, just in the way that they express their love towards each other, the way that they are always having to overcome these obstacles just to sort of maintain their relationship. And it eventually culminates then in the events of the end of the Trojan War. But all this combined creates this really fast-flowing, easily read and digestible book that you could easily sit down and finish within one single sitting, which is exactly what I did. The character work is actually very, very good here as well. She's expanded upon ideas in relation to the original characters, particularly Achilles. Now, in the Iliad, Achilles is just this untouchable demigod who sort of revels in his power and is fully aware of the fact that he is the trump card of the aligned army. But in this book, we get more of a perspective of what he was like growing up, what he was like as a child, and what that pressure of growing up to be essentially a demigod put on him in terms of being a warrior. And we all see this through Patroclus, who always, of course, is going to see the best in Achilles. But because he knows him so well, we also get insights and perspectives from him that we wouldn't have got in the Iliad. And I like the way that Madeline uses this opportunity to build on Achilles' character, and also, of course, Patroclus' character as well, because he is a relatively minor character in the book. He basically exists to prompt Achilles into his own downfall in the Iliad, whereas in this, he is so much more than that, and he is built up in such a way that you really do come to care for him as his own character and his own person. And a fair warning, if you haven't read the Iliad or you're unfamiliar with any media centered around it, you probably have in some way been exposed to it. You know the idea of Achilles' heel, that's his weak spot. You might have watched the film Troy. That is basically these events unfolding, so it is. And obviously, if you know that, then you know that this is a tragedy, more so than it is a love story. And it is just made all the more tragic whenever you have been thoroughly exposed to the love that these two characters have for each other. It's really, really hard to get through this book towards the end. Not in a it's really bad to read, but in like a I'm crying and I can't see the words on the page anymore kind of thing. And if you are someone that is a bit emotionally fragile at the minute, I wouldn't suggest reading this yet. Just keep it on your shelf until you're feeling just a tiny bit more stable. Because this is difficult towards the end, so it is. Madeline writes it in such a way that you become so attached to these characters that when the inevitable happens, it's very, very hard to stomach. But that's the beauty of the books, that's the beauty of the tragedy. That's why it's such a classical story to begin with, and having this romantic element added into it just makes it all the more poignant. But it's still worth a read. I would suggest anybody read this book, even if you're not particularly interested in like a gay love story. The actual story and the romance and the writing and the characters itself and the way it builds on the source material is enough to get you through if that's not even what you're reading it for. but it is just so wonderful to read it for that aspect anyway. But yeah, Madeline has done a great job with this, so she has. And I'm trying to think of a downside, and I just can't. This is a really, really good book, and she's done an excellent job of it. I can't really fault it. Yeah, very, very rare for me. Usually I have something to say about a book in some negative form of itself, but honestly with this, I just can't find the issue, besides it making you really, really fucking sad towards the end. Yeah, there's a reason this is considered an instant classic. It really is an excellent book. It will be something that'll be studied from years to come, and a great way of adapting classical material into something for a modern audience. Taking the idea of the two as a romantic pairing and just building your story out from that is just very, very clever, so it is. And she's kept the atmosphere and the sort of the feeling and the emotions that are brought up from the original story. She pays homage to here, so she does, and she builds it in a way that improves the source material rather than degrade it down. A lot of adaptations will really, really struggle to make anything of worth come out of adapting source material and creating something new for themselves. There's lots of examples you can have of that, especially when people are trying to say adapt from book to screen. Often things can get lost. It's never as good as source material, but I can safely say that from what she's done here, I would see this as a great addition to the original tale, and it doesn't demean it or take away elements of it just to fit a narrative. It's just a very well told adaptation, and honestly it's made me a lot more interested in reading more from Miller, because she's really, really impressed me with this book, and it's just a wonderful book to read. That's it. This is obviously a 5 out of 5. This is an amazing book. I would happily buy this to somebody as a gift, and it's just really worth the read, even if it does make you sad towards the end. That's life. That's just part of the tale. All things must end, and that really captures this perfectly, especially in terms of love never really disappearing and never really going away. Yeah, it's very sweet. It has a very sweet message towards the end. Definitely read it. 100% recommend it. Yeah, pick it up.